Hello, Kardec Radio on this wonderful January 20th, 2019. We are live on Kardec Radio Facebook page. The page is dedicated to spreading Spiritism throughout the world, especially the English-speaking world. Again, we are at live at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, all the time zones in between, and around the world. We are here today to talk about Spiritism, codified by Allan Kardec. And you can find his book on the ADICEI website. And also, you can just click on his picture on my website, nwspiritism.com. It'll take you to that bookstore, and you can find his books. You can also find his books on Amazon.com. And I say hello from Matthew and Dulce. Hello to both of you. So, again, we are here with Spiritism, and please, as you listen to us, please share and tell your friends about our Facebook Live streaming every Sunday afternoon, tonight, or wherever you are in the time zone in the world. And tonight we're talking about Melissa from San Diego, one of my favorite places. I love San Diego. So we are talking. This is talking about verse 18. Called An Encouraging Smile in my book, How to Live Inner Peace Through Spiritism. Hello, Gian. Now, before I start that, every so often I sit and I review what is in this book. So how did I create this book? So in the book, Spiritual Wisdom, Missives of Hope by J. Herculano Pierres and Chico Xavier, there is a poem dictated to Chico by the spirit Andre Luis, and to me it was revelatory. And the poem had 24 verses, which pertain with how we should place ourselves in a mental state to achieve inner peace. Inner peace isn't a condition to enjoy for a moment or two on the beach after a few drinks. It is a life quest. In actuality, it is a multiple life quest. We have to remember, in the spirit world, thought is action. And as a spirit, our mind creates the environment in which we live. Hence, the more control we have over our own thoughts, the more calm, the more reasoning, the more loving we become. All contribute to a true paradise awaiting us when we are scheduled to pass back to the real world, the spirit realm, the realm where we live the vast majority of our immortal life. And in this book, there was a poem, and it is essentially a list for advancement and serenity. For those few souls who have attained the complete set of states listed, they most probably are no longer required to come back to Earth. They will have graduated to a higher level planet, a planet without hate, envy, crime, and war. They are either are physically incarnated on an advanced planet, living side by side with others as positive and loving as they are. Oh, hello, Rosalind. Or they are at a high level of the spirit hierarchy, contributing to growing and improving the multiple universes. So what first intrigued me about the poem is what I read when J. Herculano Pierres had commented. He said, those propositions, meaning those 24 verses, analyzed individually and as a sequence of events, would result in a book we could label The Technique of Existing. Spirits do not communicate with each other in vain. Their messages must be read and meditated upon with attention and profoundness. I thought that was very interesting what he said. In acting upon his suggestion, the poem is reproduced below, and you are now hearing, as you follow these live Facebook channels, and of course, I put all these Facebook live streams, I put them on my BitChute site and my YouTube site. They're all uploaded there. You can go to my website, nwspiritism.com, and you can click and subscribe to BitChute or YouTube. Now, here's the poem, Inner Peace. I'm only going to say it to where we are today. I'll start with the first verse. Trust in God and in yourself. And as you listen to this, think about how they actually go in sequence, how you have to have one before the other. Number 2, a serene conscience. Time spent on productive matters, a constructive speech, a prayer allied to work, hope in action, an industrious patience, a dispassionate opinion, the blessing of comprehension, a participation in everyone's progress, a compassionate attitude, truth enlightened by love, oblivion of evils, happiness in your commitments, unconditional forgiveness of offenses, a devotion to study, a gesture of kindness, and now where we are today, an encouraging smile. As you can see, each one grows upon the other. And just for those first 18 verses, amazing. Just attaining that would be a wonderful state to be. So I'd like to quote something by Emmanuel to start what we're talking about, discussing an encouraging smile. This is what he said. My friend, if you have embraced the Christian Spiritist task in the name of the sublime faith, thirsting for a more uplifting spiritual life, remember that the Master has sent you renewed soul to the vast field of the world in order to serve him. You are not only to reach the way of the good, you are to act in accordance with the lofty principles that you proclaim. You are to dictate worthy directives to others, but you are not to heed them as well. But you are to heed them as well. Sorry, that's a wrong quote. You are to proclaim the need for courage while sowing joy and blessings even when you are misunderstood by all. You are not to be content with simply handing out coins in immediate relief. You are always to give a bit of yourself to whomever is in need. You are to not only forgive, you are to understand the offender, helping him or her. You are not to criticize, you are to find unexpected ways to be useful. You are not to yell, you are to make good use of your time in order to materialize the good thoughts that guide you. You are not to argue needlessly, you are to find a way to serve others wherever you are. You are not to merely combat evil with words, you are to preserve the good, sharing it with everyone. You are not to condemn, you are to discover the light of love in order to make it shine in your heart until death. Pray and watch, love and wait, serve and deny yourself. If you're not willing to apply the Divine Master's lessons to your own life, your faith will have been useless. This is what the Spirit Manual said. To be a Spiritist, a Christian Spiritist, is not an easy task. First, the perceived space between you and the Supreme Intelligence and all its functionaries are drastically diminished by your knowledge of the organization and processes of the spirit realm. Most people have an idea of God, but it is of a God far away, high above us. Yes, we think that God and his lieutenants look down on us with love, but they do so with little interference. Spiritism closes this space. Spiritism tells us every action, every thought is recorded and analyzed. So now we know we don't have this space where we're looked down upon with interest every so often, right? We are tracked every thought, everything we do. Our deeds, our thoughts, everything, other people's deeds and thoughts as it pertain to us and as ours pertain to them, are analyzed as we go about following a curriculum fashioned by the spirit world to educate us. Hence, we live in a glass house. Nothing is hidden. Now, this concept is a bit unnerving. Yes, and Dulce says, difficult concept. Deny yourself and you're asked to love yourself. Yes, it is. So, and you find this many, many times, and you're asked to serve other people, and to us thinking of it on that level, it would be like, okay, well then I need to like completely forget about myself, don't study, don't do anything except serve others. But that's not what they mean, and you'll see a lot of these things here. It's a balance, right? Because first. And you know, even the great medium Swedenborg talked about the concept of selfishness, right? You know, selfishness where we want things for ourselves, you know, is that bad? But is selfishness when we want to improve ourselves, is that bad? And the answer is no. We have to have a little bit of selfishness. So, you know, you could call that selfishness, or you could call that, you know, ambition or exploration, or the wishing to learn. And we do need to have that small pride in ourselves that, yes, we are getting better, we are improving. Because without also ourselves improving, we really can't help others. And this is a good way. This is why I wrote this book, because these concepts, I try to explain, like here, we're talking about an encouraging smile. I try to understand, okay, what do they mean by an encouraging smile? What does the spirit world actually mean by those words? And then how do we get there? What do we do to have an encouraging smile? And as I go through, it tells each chapter of the book, like the last chapter we talked about, was a gesture of kindness. What does that mean? How do we achieve it? How do we set our mind to put ourselves in that situation? And again, so yes, you're right. You were asked to of yourself, which means deny. Talk about the fact is it's like pruning a tree. The more you prune, the more you deny yourself material goods. It's like the tree back stronger, but it's all in balance, right? We can't take any one thing and unless we look at it in the context of a whole. And that's why Spiritism is so interesting, because it really fills in everything. But as one of our chapters, which was verse 16, says, a devotion to study. Now, that's an important one. So that's why it's part of our ability to serve others. We need a devotion to study. And when we look at it as a wishing for us to serve others, we have to look at it. What's the end game here? What does that mean? What does that mean to the spirit world, serving others? We have to recognize that the whole reason we're going through these difficult trials and tribulations is to change our character, to make ourselves get rid of primitive emotions, and to make ourselves stronger and better and more, use our ratiocination capabilities and keep our emotion, our primitive emotions, out of it, whereas we keep our good emotions, what enables us to focus, right? And use that emotion and faith to focus ourselves. Why? Because this is the concept I get in my trilogy of my book of why I interpret information from G. Val Owen. And he really, it's just so interesting. He tells us all the different levels of heaven, gives us information. And what is revealed from this great medium in the early 20th century from England is that there are many levels of heaven. As you go higher and higher, you train yourselves. And as you train yourself, you're able to use your mind more and more. And you don't just graduate with a piece of paper. You graduate with more power, more capabilities. Eventually, when they're saying like sometime after the 10th level of heaven, you actually become a contributor to the spirit world. You'll actually be part of teams that will go to other planets, help direct life, help direct the evolution of plants. Who knows what else? Now, while you're on Earth, you help the higher spirits on the on the levels of heaven. Of course, these levels are arbitrary. They even say there's other people call them other things. Will help us here on Earth, like higher students, like seniors helping freshmen, etc. But so we have to look at that. So when I say is when we think of God and that nothing is hidden, is that we are always being measured. But we're being measured and watched with love. That is like a teacher watching a student to say, okay, I'm watching how that student learns or what they're not learning. How can I help that person, him or her, learn what they need to learn in order to become a contributor to society? Of course, sometimes we go through nerve, or we get the desperation because our wife or husband just left. I don't have as much money as we want. These things are tough, but they are there. These things happen in order to elicit an emotional response for us to learn some lesson. Over and over again, the spirit world says that pain is the great teacher. Now, I did, and we were really smart, like people could follow it, and we would take it to heart, and we would make it part of us. Who does that? Very few smart people do that, right? Not I. It's like we have to go through this, this trauma in order to really change our character. So that is that's an idea of God. It makes it it makes it difficult to be a spiritist. The second thing that makes it difficult is the concept of predestination. Nothing, or extremely close to almost nothing, happens by chance. Synchronicities, right? As Carl Jung named them. Again, knowing that you're on a ride with all the ups and downs, like a roller coaster, but you don't realize there are tracks, is a bit discouraging, right? It's like, once you realize that you're on this track, and yet you still have to keep pushing. You can't just sit there and go, okay, I'll just wait, see what happens. No, it doesn't work that way. You still have to be aggressive in the fact that you have to try and keep improving yourself, move forward, right? Save for that house, raise those kids, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm not going to cook anymore. I'm just going to let the spirit world tell me what to do next. No, it doesn't work that way. It's more like a class where you start that class and you're supposed to do your homework and you're supposed to work. And then one trial, when it ends, it's like the bell ringing, then you go to the next trial. So once you are a spiritist, you almost wait for the next bend in the rails to give you a good fright, right? It's like, okay, I know something's coming, right? Okay, it's been too quiet. But what it is and what does it mean is constantly at the back of your mind. And we'd all know the future, but we're not allowed to. These things have to come at us. You logically realize it is safest just to keep moving forward, doing the best that you can and being the best that you can, because you can't just be passive and wait. As I said before, you are expected to always strive and contribute, but you don't want to charge off the wrong direction. Finally, you determine that to always follow your conscience is the best advice. And think about what I just said. Don't be passive. Don't wait for orders. Keep striving and contributing. Isn't that, if you thought about it, in any job you ever had, and you figured what's the best type of employees are? It's the person who will take the reins and do what is expected of them. And Dulce says, I think it's only difficult if you want to fix everything in one incarnation. We must understand that we are apprentices of Jesus and perfection will take a long time. Now, that is exactly true. And so many of us do. And I talk to people all the time saying, no, it's not improving. And I go, well, hey, I've been talking to you for how many years, right? And you sound like you're improving to me. Well, but I'm not perfect. I said, well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in one life. I mean, maybe it will to somebody, but I doubt it. It's going to take a long time. And then what does Dulce mean, a long time? Well, that could be thousands and thousands of years. It could be 10 lifetimes, right? You think if we have a lifetime every 100 years or so, maybe on average, that's 10 lifetimes. And some people, I've heard this in spiritist literature, will park themselves for millennia. In fact, I've heard of one person, I think it was in the book Liberation by Chico Xavier, dictated by the Spirit Under Release. They were talking about people who were in the dark abyss, which you call hell, it's like a purgatory, for 10,000 years. So that's why you have to take this opportunity and do the best you can, but don't kill yourself over it. Don't get disturbed because you haven't removed every bad characteristic. I haven't. I don't know who has, but just know you've made little progress. And of course, what does the spirit world tell us? Over and over again, I've read in so many different spiritist books, for every sacrifice you make, you will be rewarded 100-fold. So it's, the carrot is out there. And really, what is the carrot? The carrot is you will grow and grow and have more and more power to actually, create buildings, create your environment, create what you look like, help other people with your mind. And that's why our training is so important. That's why this whole thing about an encouraging smile. So I wanted to go over this with you is to keep that attitude up, right? To know you can help other people. And that's why you're going to this training, because you just don't help other people like, okay, I'm going to help you, give you $5. No, you have to think about, what does that mean? How can you help that person? Do you want to just give them money every month and then let them do something stupid? No. You want to help them get on their own feet and help them create their own, determine their own will, use their own will to help themselves improve. So what's the third thing? And the third thing that's tough about being spiritual is the balance of spiritual improvement and material necessities of everyday life. Once you realize that you are immortal and that the life you are living is one of many, you devalue material pleasures. But you still have a family to take care of. You still have your own needs to take care of. You know, they may not realize the transitory nature of life like you do, and hence, until they do, they all require a foundation to live, to achieve their dreams, to enable them to find out for themselves what the spirit world wants from them. It's not easy. We have to keep moving. We have to keep earning. We have to keep working all the time. And yet, again, we have to have, right? We have to study. We have to trust in God. We have to love other people. We have to forgive. We have to do all these things. But you think about it. You think about it. And doesn't that, again, make us a much better person to always improve ourselves at the same time serving others? Right? That's what the balance we're trying to make. So the last thing that's really tough is to really understand the truth of reincarnation, of karma. That we have had and will have many lives. One analyzes the trials in the present life and derives hints at what one must have done in a previous life. And it can be a disturbing revelation. I wrote a whole book about this, which is the problem is the solution, meaning that when you look at the problems in your life, they're actually God's gifts to you. And I mean, it's so much easier for me to say that than for anybody to actually believe that. But I do believe it now. And once you study and learn and really understand Spiritism, you are given these problems, these trials, for you to learn a valuable lesson. You know, you may have had a terrible divorce. Well, probably in the previous life, you did those terrible things that your current partner did to you. It was all set up that way. So you'll know I will never treat another person like that again. I will try to leave honorably and fairly. But these things happen. So it's not easy. And so all this, coupled with the fact that you have multiple lives, coupled with the fact that every action has a reaction. So everything's always going along. Your actions are always determining your next life. It's like going to class, and your next class is going to be influenced by your previous class. What you learn will be tailored to you all the time, right? That's how life after life is done. And so that makes us think, what are the implications of past errors for the current life and beyond? And finally, one knows in their heart to not dwell on the past, to learn from it and move on, vowing to alter that which led to mistakes. And this, I believe, is what the Spirit Andre realized when, in the 18th line of the poem, Inner Peace, when he penned the theme of how to live life, he wrote an encouraging smile. And I went through all of these hard realizations of Spiritism in order to come here. In 3 words, he expressed that with our newfound knowledge of Spiritism and all that entails, we shouldn't turn solely inward, deep in introspection, but we need to keep our joyousness for ourselves and other by encouragement, a positive, a happy encouragement. Andre Louise well understood, the Spirit Andre Louise, the impact of revelations that Spiritism may bring to each individual. The weight of the knowledge that we are being constantly tested can be a heavy load, but soon we pass an invisible line where we accept our place on earth and begin to take pleasure in the obstacles and our new outlook. Life takes on a different flavor. So think about that. And it's happened to people I know. It's happening to me, is that you don't let, once you get up on that 10,000 foot ledge, you don't let these little things bother you like you did before. You take them in stride. You say, okay, oh, interesting. You know, I wonder why that happened. And what should I learn from it? And when people, say stupid things to you or doing things to you, it's like, okay, well, I mean, I just hope them all the best in the future. I have the free will to try to stay away from them. I'm not going to gossip or being mean to them, but it's something that it's on their mind. Maybe it's something I need to learn. Maybe they're testing me. I'll try to be calm and cool about it. But through all that, we need to keep our own joy, right? So he understood that. And the weight of the knowledge that we are being constantly tested can be a heavy load. And that's why we really look at ourselves differently when we accept what the process is. And when we accept what the process is, this predestination, reincarnation, we're being watched, right? We're having to learn and sacrifice at the same time. Life actually becomes more interesting, because whatever age you are, wherever you are, whatever situation you are, everything you're doing is productive. Even those boring times when you're on your bed going, oh, I'm bored. That's another lesson. Okay, how are you going to get unbored? How are you going to get, are you going to pick up are you going to teach yourself something? You're going to go help you do something? Those precious moments. And that's why it's so important that when anybody ever thinks, like, no, sorry, all you're doing is you're getting out of class. You are not solving anything. You have to go through what you're going through. And so once you get this interest of like, oh, life, there's everything going, because you have to think too, it's not just your life is planned, it's everyone else's life, and all their intersections with you are planned. And therefore, people and their situations become really enticing dramas to be analyzed. You think, okay, what did that person do in the past? And what are they trying to tell them now? And so in the midst of all this newness, all this interest that we see all around us, we need to keep at the forefront an encouraging smile. So how do we do that? How do we become a person who inspires others, right? Well, first, we must learn to serve, right? And to serve is to perform unselfish acts. Dampening down on the selfishness we all have within ourselves is one of the first tasks we must carry out to become that which we wish to be. And of course, we all see that through childhood, right? A young child is just, enormously selfish, but as you get older and older, become less selfish. But we all have that still in ourselves, right? And the Spirit Joanna exclaims to the world what we should emphasize in our character to dampen down selfishness. And this is what she says is altruism. She says that the antithesis of selfishness is altruism. It heals the wounds of the soul caused by it and fosters comprehensive health. Altruism is a bright and shining star radiating and enveloping peace that reaches and overcomes the emotional and prejudicial distances that keep people apart. It captures all willing hearts with its radiation and indelibly marks the period of life with its presence. The desire for possession, gratification of the senses, and superiority, which typifies selfishness, becomes a yearning for selflessness, happiness, and fraternity in the liberating arena of altruism. So what did she say? Joanna, the Spirit Joanna de Angelis, explains that once you start thinking about others, your desires change. You begin to steer away from physical pleasures and become focused on assistance of those in need. Whereas once your satisfaction was in bodily stimuli, you become delighted in the acts of kindness and understanding. Exchanging one positive feeling for another is a time-tested method to rewire your outlook and habits. And that's what we're here, right? We're rewiring our character, rewiring our brain. Your memories of buying luxuries or sensuous encounters usually fade away in a small amount of time. Dredging up remembrances never seem to provide the satisfaction you require. Therefore, more is needed. And it is difficult to stop without feeling the emotional need in the hours in the day. You see this with people. They shop, they get a little bit of buzz from shopping, they have to shop more. They take drugs, they get a little bit of buzz from that first taking of drugs, then they have to take more and more and more. Therefore, you need to replace the time and emotional fulfillment with service to others to neatly exchange a primitive desire for a more spiritually advanced sense of pleasure. Joanna points out the long-term effect. She says this: as altruism expands, it takes on an ethical aspect. We can see this ethic as being the serenity that respects all behaviors without imposing its own way of living, of looking at life, of expressing itself. There's so much truth to that. And what do we see that for? We see all around us where these people are always critical, or when someone says something wrong, they all jump in and try to destroy their life and their career. It's horrible. I really feel sad to see that in our culture, where any mistake you make is just everyone piles on. When in actuality, making mistakes is probably the best thing we can do. And someone just gently point out, well, this is maybe what you might want to do, but not just to pound and be mean to people. That's not altruism, right? That's not teaching anybody anything. That's just trying to be above it all as you think you are and being superior to everybody without really understanding yourself. So, wishing to serve the individual in their time of need removes the point of view imposed upon us by society and culture we reside. We don't examine the need of a foreigner differently than a citizen of our own country or of a diverse culture. We see what is lacking and attempt to supplement it. Joanna tells us that as we grow in altruism, we replace civil laws and outlook with the application of natural law, or the law of love. We query our conscience first and foremost, and only second examine what may be in the penal code in the jurisdiction in which we live. Once we instill the love of others within us, the next step is to act upon it. We should take our newfound compassion and begin to find means to exercise our kindness upon those around us. Joanna tells us how these actions will commence. And this is so important. And this is very enlightening to me. This is what she says. They begin as tolerance to those on the lower levels of moral growth, providing them with fraternal opportunities for self-realization, while at the same time helping them directly with their inner and outer growth. True tolerance is an invisible achievement that becomes a degree of progress because it encourages new expressions of solidarity, accentuating unrestricted forgiveness of all harm that has been done, with real forgiveness of the offense. Overcoming the challenge is a major step forward on the road to personal illumination, which opens the way for deeds of fraternal charity, of assisting the neediest, of being present wherever support and help are indispensables. Action is the word of order throughout the universe. Movement is the mechanism that drives life in all directions. Now, doesn't that make total sense? Is that when you are tolerant, you don't hate someone for doing something they do. You understand it. And as an example, some people, they see a thief that's been caught, right? Now, that doesn't mean you should, love them. You should allow them to do whatever they want unconditionally, but you don't hate them because you understand, you're tolerant of what they did. Not that you allow it, but you understand that they are a more ignorant spirit that will go through what probably you have gone through in the past, is learning that that is not the right decision. So therefore, our altruism, as we encourage it, promotes tolerance of those we seek to assist. When you see some friend and they did something really stupid, and you go, "Oh, I can't believe you said that's so stupid." I've seen that. I've thought that myself. But then you understand where they're coming from, what maturity level you think they're at, and you go, "Okay." It's like you're tolerating your children, right? They're going to make all sorts of mistakes, and teenagers think they know everything, and they're going to make all sorts of mistakes. But you're tolerant of them, and you're being altruistic. Just being a parent is altruism par excellence, right? So as we help others, the old layers of past grudges and possible future ones fade away. We realize that everyone is on their own journey, and their actions are all dictated by their spiritual level and their planned life on earth. So instead of emotionally internalizing the deeds of others, we intellectualize them and fashion methods to support a positive outcome to whatever the person had to suffer through. Our thoughts, our analysis becomes real action. Now, in the physical world, the actions may be giving food, helping with the rent, or just listening. This prepares us for life in the spirit realm where our thoughts are actions. Now, so I want to tell everyone, don't be discouraged because you really can't help anybody. You are helping people more than you know, most probably, by just lending a helping hand, whenever they're in moments of needs, being sympathetic, not gossiping about them, or when people gossip about those people, when you're there, say, no, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that, or remove yourself from the conversation. Those are all positive actions, right? We are conditioning ourselves, our minds, to skip the physical phase from when we return to the land of energy. Because there, where our minds morph the landscape around us and the environment we live in, we need to keep our thoughts pure and correct. So, where do we start this? Where do we start this to have an encouraging smile, to be altruistic? Well, as usual, the best place to start a new beginning is in the home. Kindness and inspiration should start where you live. Spiritist literature encourages us to conduct a family meeting once a week. What Spiritists call this God at home. We started this meeting in our own home more than 6 years ago, and we picked, 8 p.m. on Thursday nights, and we start on time. And the reason for setting a regular meeting time in place is to make it easy for your guardian spirits to be at home with you during the meeting. Now, it may take a few weeks, but after you establish a regular meeting time, you will begin to feel the presence of good spirits. Everyone else feels these things. Some people have no, ability at all. I always thought I didn't have any ability, but I will say that when I went to my first Spiritist meeting and then later on we had our God home, I was able to start feeling the sense of spirits by tingling in my arms. I could feel some other electromagnetic or whatever it is. I could feel some other presence. That's as far as my power goes, which is like nothing, but I could feel that. I don't know how other people feel that. I'm sure some of you probably feel it much more. Some people actually see spirits. I knew this one person we talked to in a Spiritist meeting, and he could see spirits. And he was telling my wife, what he saw when Spiritists give passes. Now, what passes are is when you in a Spiritist meeting, usually you'll have a half hour, an hour talk, and then you go in and you are getting passes. They take you into a room, and then you sit down, and the person in front of you will pass their arms. They won't touch you. They'll pass their arms in front of you, and there will be a spirit behind them who will use their universal fluid to go through that human's body into yours, because they'll use that person, that physical person in front of the one getting the passes, as a way to change the universal fluid to help that particular person. And what that person says, when he saw the spirits, they move really fast. They move like robots because the time and then as soon as someone came to the room, that person was taken to the chair that they thought that they would be helped the best, right? And it was just these bright things of light, and they were just like moving. That's very interesting. And of course, when I heard that, and the next time I had passes, I thought, okay, I'll go to that chair, and I tried it, and I changed my mind in the last minute. This is, it just tells you how immature I am. But I couldn't resist it. Probably went to the place that they always wanted me to go, and they were, of course, far ahead of me. So anyway, but that's what you do, and so this is so helpful. This God at home meeting, and these people will be they're beneficial spirits. They're your spirit guardians, your spirit mentors, and they have your best interests in mind, and they'll help everybody in the meeting. They will assist the children in forming their thoughts and give the adults the openness and patience to learn to communicate. In our home, we start the meeting with a prayer, and then we read a passage from a Spiritist book. And since we have children, we start to read a beginner's guide to Spiritism, or sometimes we'll read my book, Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation. Of course, and also just let you know, you can get that on my Facebook site, Spirits in the Spirit World Around Us. There's a link to that site from my nwspiritism.com, and you go to the Facebook site, and in the files section, I actually have lots of PDFs there that people have told me about, and I put those in the file section, and you can upload those PDFs. There's Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation, and other PDFs. Some really great stuff there. So anyway, one of the times we started reading Beginner's Guide to Spiritism. Each one of us took turns reading a few paragraphs, and then we discussed what we learned. We review subjects as what is the meaning of reincarnation or immortal life, the need for charity, and other important concepts. More importantly, we allow the dialogue to travel to whatever question the child can think of. And the topics, of course, veer off, with the problems in school and friends and family concerns. Also, but it's all productive. And it's amazing is I believe the spirits are around there to help. You know how hard it is for children to communicate their thoughts. I believe the spirits are there. Sometimes they help them focus that and ask good questions. Also, before we start the meeting, we fill up a pitcher of water and place it in the middle of the table. And during the meeting, the spirits will energize the water. And after the ending prayer, we all drink the liquid. And what I'll do too is I'll have something like this, and I'll also put it there. And then later on, I'll drink it, throughout the next week, or, I'll put it by my bed and I'll drink that magnetized water. And the meeting promotes our physical and spiritual health, and therefore, and as we discuss the aspects of our life on earth and our future life in the spirit realm, the spirits give us healing vibrations. The spirit Joanna expands on the benefits of a weekly meeting. This is what she says. As a methodology to family education, the study of the gospel of Jesus as home is a significant resource that contributes to the balance of all family members. One weekly meeting where the family gathers for an edifying and healthy conversation, for the discussion of common problems and the understanding of the troubles in relationships is an excellent opportunity for the ethical and moral development of all. Clarifying misunderstandings and figuring out solutions to whatever might be disturbing life at home and the outside. In a harmonious environment, distant from conflictive emotions, parent and children talk more naturally with other members of the family, trying to find best ways to build understanding and a happy living. Free from color exchanges, that healthy habit works as a link that binds those who have learned to respect one another and promote salutary discussions about the fundamental problems inside the domestic group. And for what she said, I can certainly attest to the effectiveness of our family meetings. My wife and I take the opportunity to illustrate the loving environment we should all strive for, and we are able to discuss many formal, important family topics in peace and in a rational manner. Not that I'm perfect, right? Sometimes I am in a rational manner, and I'm not where I want to be. But within this meeting, we all are much more calm. And the best benefit of all is that we ask the children for feedback to determine what ways we should set boundaries and discipline for the kids. We always have heard reasonable solutions. And in fact, I have learned to change my approach for one child who couldn't grasp the manner in which I was trying to communicate a certain concept. I truly believe the spirits present in our room at our dining table assisted the children to verbalize effectively what they were trying to communicate with a child and ask why they did a certain thing, and we get a shrug in return, normally, right? But during the home meetings, a more rational explanation seems to emerge. I can only thank the spirits for that. Home meetings work for adults without children too. When a couple or more adults live together, they should also have a respite from everything and allocate time for a spiritual conversation. In our culture, an in-depth discussion of the spirit world, our place within it, and how we should fashion ourselves often seems strange, as if we are talking about a forbidden subject. The entire spectrum of our media has tried to expunge any exposure to a higher moral authority, with some exceptions. It is the same as the story of the emperor with no clothes. All of the emperor's attendants told him he looked great after he donned the invisible clothes, but no one would tell him the truth. Our media, afraid of offending anyone who believes in relative morality, but more important, of stating that there is a moral truth which is not relative or fungible, has attempted to filter out any question of right and wrong. The spirit realm understands that all of humankind may not agree on what the correct behavior is or not. Therefore, they wish us to have a dialogue with an interplay between different religions, philosophies, and doctrines. More knowledge will be spread, and people can start their own personal discovery. But a blackout of any discussion of purpose of life beyond our temporary stay on Earth only serves to stall the eventual ascendancy of our entire planet. That is why each of us needs to do our utmost in becoming examples of spiritual enlightenment. And we can hone our communication and listening skills in our God in home meetings. This is the first small step of acquiring the altruism to effectively help others. And we can use this skill beyond the boundaries of our home to change society for the better. This is the reason Andre Luis exhorts us to have gestures of kindness and an encouraging smile. Each of us is like a wave hitting the beach. One wave does nothing to break apart the small pebbles to create the smooth white sand, but millions upon millions of waves over time does the job. We must do our small part, no matter how small it may seem to be. Each ripple of water will serve to smooth out the rock, not mattering how gentle it may appear. Spiritism, the doctrine of which can be summed up as follow the golden rule, can lead us to elevate ourselves and the world around us. So I hope this helps really show what is meant by an encouraging smile, to know that if you have an encouraging smile, that person you'll impart the feeling that whatever is happening, it'll all be okay. You, in our hearts, right, as we radiate that, we know we are an immortal spirit. Things may seem serious now. Things may seem dark. People may not be where they want to be, but everything will be better. We will learn. We will ascend. Every one of us will eventually ascend. And that's why I'm here talking. And that's why other people are here on this wonderful Kardec Radio Facebook page. It's helping people learn how to ascend, helping us so we don't park ourselves in life after life. And I also want to encourage everybody to go and put Kardec Radio on your iPhone or Android phone. It's a free app. I load all my lectures are on here. As far as these, like I load up the audio. They're on Kardec Radio. You go to Kardec Radio. There's a website. I think there's links to it from the Facebook site. There's all sorts of these programs you can listen like a podcast. There's all this information you can find. It's a great app. Also, please share this video. Please share other videos you see about Spiritism. Not only do I make these, but also on my BitChute and my YouTube site, I do a lot of 5, 10 minute, 3-minute videos of different aspects of video. And I try to publish once a week. I publish this here on YouTube and BitChute on Sunday nights. Please tell everyone to come and subscribe, hit that bell so you know when new things are done. And then later in the week, I'll put one of my smaller Spiritism explained and explored and explained on the YouTube site, which I hope is good. And I also there's a wonderful lady in Brazil that is, I have a section in there. If you go to the YouTube channel, I have a section of all the YouTubes that are translated in subtitles in Portuguese. So that's all there too. So there's a lot of information from many people, not just me. There's Vanessa Anceloni. I wish there was more of these type of talks. But you go to the Spiritist Society of Virginia, of Baltimore. They'll have sites, and there's a lot of links on my site, NW Spiritism. And there's links also where you can find Spiritist meetings. And because really, Allan Kardec, this book was, this was just the most wonderful thing in my life. And this answered so many questions. And the next book that I just love, and I keep rereading, is The Gospel According to Spiritism. Because I don't know about other people, when I read the New Testament, the Old and New Testament, and especially the New Testament, many of the parables by Jesus, I didn't understand. But this helps really explain everything. This book is just a godsend, right? And so these are two wonderful books. Of course, as I said before, you can get them on PDF also, so there won't be any cost. But they're actually less expensive on that EDI CI bookstore. I think they're like $9 or something. Click on his picture, you'll get that. You'll go to that bookstore, and of course, Amazon you can get them too, and Kindle. I believe they're available on Kindle. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for being here on this wonderful January 20th, 2019. I want to bless everyone, and we will see you, and we'll go to the next chapter in our next meeting, which is chapter 19, Spontaneity to Assist Others. God bless all of you, and I want to wish you a wonderful night. God bless.